Welcome to Real Talk NFT. I'm your host, Brian, and we got a great guest here for you today. It's the Director of Business Development of the digital identity platform Space ID. We have Harrison on the line today. Really excited to dive deep and talk about Space ID, what they're building in the Web3 world, and really kind of just chat it up with him a little bit and see what his insights are in crypto, Web3, and all the good stuff that we love. Harrison, thanks for jumping on and joining us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. Looking forward to diving in with you.
Yeah, and some interesting stuff here. I've been going through the platform, looking over Space ID. Really want to dive deep and talk about like digital identities and where that places in the world of Web3. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense to me, but our audience I'm sure, would love to learn more. But before we dive deep, we'd love to know a little bit about your background. How did you get started in the crazy world of Web3?
Yeah, for sure. So I first was introduced to crypto and Web3 around late 2016. I was actually introduced to Ethereum before Bitcoin by some buddies of mine. And it really just rocked my world. It took a few months for me to even understand the difference between something like Bitcoin and Venmo. And that's when you start really answering and asking some tough questions. What is money? What is value? What are the different opportunities here? Questions that you may not have even had in your mind before. And it really starts to change your perspective on ownership, on control of, applications of your own assets. And for me, I say like once you get bit by the blockchain bug, like there's not really any turning around. So I've been working in the crypto space pretty much since 2017. I have a background in finance and accounting, so started at a boutique firm called Emerging Star Capital, doing analysis on different tokens as well as projects there. Moved to more of the content creation side, explaining in more layman's terms how these projects work, the value proposition, trying to make it more understandable for the average user. And I really like the forward-facing aspects of crypto. So how to grow it, how we can kind of bring in new users, how we can kind of develop new use cases. And I've been able to kind of fine-tune that into my career. Before Space ID, I worked at a multi-chain NFT platform called NF Trade, where I was leading growth and strategy there. Focused a lot of alternative L1s and L2s. We were one of the first marketplaces to support Avalanche and Binance BNB chain-based NFTs, so captured a lot of volume there. Never was super into the art side of the NFTs, which I think maybe we'll touch on here as well. But really, the value proposition of being able to own unique digital items, I think, is very interesting, and it's something we're still incorporating in Space ID and continuing to incorporate throughout the entire blockchain space. So, yeah, kind of just took it step by step, and now I'm leading the team here at Space ID from the BD side. Trying to bring digital identity to the forefront.
Man, okay, so impressive background. You've been through your fair share of bear and bull markets, I'm sure. What did you say, 2016?
Yeah, so this is my third bull market, I guess. I mean, 2017 was crazy for me, and then there was like the 2021 market. So now I like, it's funny, there are people that talk about like the PTSD traders, that have gone through all of these markets and like, when do you sell? When is it peaking? And I feel like I'm in that boat a little, but also when you're going through all these ups and downs, you also develop a thick skin. So as long as, for me, I have long-term conviction in Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these, projects that are really pushing the boundaries. So got to take your profits, got to, maximize your capabilities, but we're going to be riding the wave for a lot longer.
Yeah, we have a similar background there with when we both got into the crypto industry and really how our paths developed from a career standpoint. So I can definitely relate to you with that. And it's interesting because your buddies recommended Ethereum over Bitcoin. Really would love to know how that came about, because in 2016, Bitcoin, well, it's still like the Mac Daddy, obviously, but that was still the talk of the town. There was a lot of confusion around it. Why do you think your buddies recommended ETH over Bitcoin, and what did they see that maybe a lot of people didn't?
I don't know if they recommended it per se, but they were interested in the smart contract side of things. So being able to own and operate decentralized applications, which wasn't really available to Bitcoin until very recently and still doesn't have a very robust ecosystem. So I think that's kind of how we got into it. I did, of course, get Bitcoin and learn more about Bitcoin over time. but it really started from like the decentralized application aspect for me versus like the decentralized value or a decentralized store of value or more of like a decentralized currency, which I see Bitcoin as more than Ethereum. So, being able to actually monetize your participation in these different ecosystems, being able to participate without any central authority deciding whether or not you can, that spoke to me on a very, I guess, philosophical level, and that's where Ethereum kind of rang true to me, I guess.
I love that. It's probably a perfect segue to talk a little bit about Space ID. Could you kind of tell me what your primary mission and thesis is in the world of Web3? Give us a 1 inch view.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the one liner would be we're building a universal domain name platform, a universal identity platform. We just want to make the on-chain interaction process easier for Web 2 and Web 3 users, bringing that username like experience to crypto. So one of the most simple use cases is transacting between users. Instead of having to use a randomized like wallet address of OXAB145, I can send to Brian.bnb or Brian.eth or Gamer.bnb, providing a more easy to use, fluid, understandable alternative that can be used in the same way as that OX wallet address.
So explain to me what the difference or how it works with our ENS names. For instance, you gave an example like Brian.eth. How's Space ID work with that, or how's it compete with it? Can you kind of clarify that for me?
Sure. Yeah. So we work with ENS in some ways, and I guess we compete in other ways, although we don't actually go after the Ethereum ecosystem. Essentially, we build out similar identity infrastructure for different L1s and L2s, as well as offer these to our integration partners. So our two biggest domain name services are on BNB Chain and Arbitrum.bnb and .arb. We have about 650,000 domain name holders there. So for example, let's say you're MetaMask, which is one of our integration partners. We support about 20 different domain name services, some of our own native domain name services, and then third-party domain name services, such as ENS, Solana name service, Lens Protocol, Unstoppable Domains. So they can integrate all these different domain name services on all these different chains through a single touch point. So we kind of bring all of these different identity protocols to one basic interface. So we don't necessarily benefit by bringing ENS to our partners in the sense that we're not monetizing that, but we do add that extra value because Ethereum is one of the cornerstones of the blockchain space. ENS is the go-to domain name ecosystem now. So if an ecosystem or a project wants to bring BNB and Arbitrum and Zeta and other domain name services to their users, they also have the opportunity to bring all of these domain names to their or all of these capabilities to their users, regardless of the chain that they're interacting on.
Yeah, I love that. And making things easier for people in the world of crypto is what we're all about. And you nailed it. When you're sending typically pretty decent large sums of money to like random strings 0x4q, did I get that right, double checking, can be stressful. Even somebody that's really savvy in the industry like myself, I find myself like double triple quadruple checking. Even like if I send a transaction today, I'm like, okay, does that match up? So to just simplify things, to make it easier for people, create user interfaces that are easier to use, I think you're really hitting the nail on the head here with what you're building at Space ID. Tell me a little bit about NFTs and how they play a role at Space ID.
Yeah, so all of our domain names are represented as ERC-721 NFTs or their equivalent. So they're essentially utility NFTs. This way, there's no two domain names that can be faked or swapped. If you own Brian.bnb, I can verify that ownership through your wallet address. You can send a transaction proving you're Brian.bnb. So they provide that unique digital asset that verifies the ownership of the domain name.
Okay, that was actually my next question. I was curious how you verified these different domain names. So obviously you have that figured out. If not, we would, we'd be having a different conversation. But that's awesome. So they are all ERC 721. So they're utility tokens. And I think whenever I was looking through your some of your information, do you have a token as well?
We do. So we have our ID token. This is a governance token. So that governs our Space ID DAO. They decide how we use our revenue. They decide some aspects of our roadmap, how we use our treasury, what ecosystems to get involved with. You can submit proposals there, and then the ID token holders vote whether to go forward with those proposals or not.
Awesome. Awesome. So what industries or what sectors within Web3 or the Web2 world do you think is going to really benefit by Space ID?
Yeah, so there's a few sectors. The biggest one and the most evident one right now would just be user interactions. Whether you're sending to an exchange, whether you're sending to another user, it just provides that safety and security that you would have like sending an email. Both you and I have been in the space for a while. I also double check, triple check every single time I'm sending a transaction. And it's very tedious. It's very nerve wracking. You're refreshing the block explorer, hoping that it actually went through. And this kind of bypasses that. SocialFi is another sector. Being able to have kind of like your own Web3 username or Web3 identity that you can carry with you across different applications. Gaming is also another sector where you can kind of have your own Web3 gamer tag. You can show your support through a clan, stuff like that. So the sky is really the limit in terms of how these usernames will be used. But what's really cool is that you'll be able to carry them across different sectors. So if you're an art collector or an NFT creator, I can verify that Brian created this NFT, or, oh, Brian owned this NFT. He's really famous. I want this one from this specific collection. And maybe on your gaming profile, you have a totally different domain name that's more gaming focused. So it's really up to you how you use them. And then it's up to dApps how they can kind of incorporate this this username like experience within their platform.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a loaded question for you because I knew the answer was going to be pretty much every corner of Web3. This makes sense, right? You named one in something that's been catching a lot of steam for over the past couple of years, and we're getting into this bull market now, and gaming and Web3 gaming is becoming more and more prevalent in this space. And it's obvious, but I never really thought like having that user digital identity attached to your gaming profile makes a ton of sense, and we could probably talk 30 minutes on that alone. Give me a breakdown of where you see kind of the vision for Space ID over the next few years.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways we're going to approach identity. Right now, identity protocols are still relatively siloed. So ENS focuses on the Ethereum ecosystem. Our .bnb chain domain name service focuses on BNB chain. And we think that's going to become more interoperable. We already are doing something like that with some of our partners. For example, we launched a MetaMask Snap a few months ago. So now you can use any of your domain name services across any chain to send and receive funds. So it essentially universalizes like the EVM domain name service. So if I'm on Ethereum, even though I own Harrison.bnb on BNB chain, I can still send ETH to Harrison.bnb and it'll go to my EVM wallet on Ethereum. So I think that's going to continue to snowball, and it's going to become even more fluid, where these are, you don't even really care necessarily what is the underlying chain, just whatever brand you want to show support to, whether that's ENS or BNB or new games, stuff like that. You'll be able to have your own custom domain name that kind of reflects your identity. Another thing we're going to be focusing on is tying this into the Web2 space. Being able to connect and manage URLs through digital identity ownership. So we already have decentralized versions of this. For example, we have a community member that built an application called bnb.me, where I can create a Web2 blog, a website, or whatever, and the ownership is verified by the wallet address that owns the NFT. So if I went to harrison.bnb.me on my URL, I can now write a blog, write a CV, anything I want. And the only way to control that and modify that is through this underlying identity ownership. So there's going to be kind of a convergence of this identity with actually website usage, social media usage, kind of branching into that Web2 space. And then we're also working on something that we haven't fully announced yet, but essentially just to make it easier to send and receive funds through different centralized exchanges in a safer and more secure way. So that's something that we're going to be launching relatively soon. Really just trying to provide a more unified experience where, again, we're just trying to de-silo all these different ecosystems and make it more universal.
I love the hidden alpha that you're giving us, during the podcast. So let me just clarify. So it really doesn't matter what the underlying, well, as long as Space ID is supporting the chain, and that's obviously another layer there, but it really doesn't matter what we're sending to that user ID. It's going to find its path to the correct chain, correct?
Yeah, so you can even do that with non-EVM addresses now. Essentially, you can
Ooh.
map your different wallet address to your domain name. So I own harrison.bnb. If I have a Solana address, I can say, okay, I want all Solana transactions from this address to be usable and sendable to harrison.bnb. ENS does this as well. So if I'm a BNB chain fanboy, if I love Binance, I can choose to have my harrison.bnb domain name as my Solana profile, as my Ethereum profile, as my BNB chain domain name. So it really is going to become to the user kind of like an email address. If you could only send Google emails to other Google users, I mean, now Google is the main broker, but back in the day we had Yahoo, MSN. If those were all able to only interact with one another, that would create a lot of friction. And it looks weird now thinking, a Yahoo email address wouldn't be able to interact with a Google email address. So we're going to try and do that with the username space.
Great analogy. Great analogy. Could you imagine if I had a Gmail address and I was sending it to someone with a Yahoo address and I wasn't getting the email? That's a great analogy. And I didn't realize that you could almost have an umbrella approach. So how do we go about that? We go to your website, space.id, connect our wallet, and then there's a way to just essentially assign certain wallets. I'm sure we have to sign transactions for those wallets to approve they're ours and connect them to our name. And it's as easy as that.
Yeah, exactly. It's called on-chain mapping. So you just map the address to your domain name. It's mostly right now EVM and Solana, but that'll continue to grow and expand.
No, that's slick. That's slick. I mean, I'm especially. I think a lot of people in this industry, and we're gonna jump into NFTs here in just a couple minutes. But a lot of people, a couple years ago, ETH NFTs were the only things we were trading. ERC20 tokens, we absolutely love those. The only meme coins that were even found in the space were pretty much found on Ethereum. Now we have every day I'm waking up and there's a new L1, new L2,
Yep.
some other opportunity to buy another NFT, another meme coin on another chain. And it actually becomes a little overwhelming. I would sometimes like rub my temples. I'm like, okay, where are we going? What path are we going down? So this just makes it so much easier for guys like me, and especially people just getting into the industry, that we want to take away
Yeah,
one more barrier. Um,
exactly.
Tell me a little bit about. So I have some interesting questions that we talked a little bit about before the show, but I want to know about your thoughts of the current NFT space and really specifically some of these legacy collections. We got like Pudgy Penguins and what Luca's doing have absolutely been smashing with the release of the Pengu token. Their NFTs are up big. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on the current NFT space and where that's going to evolve.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what type of audience you have. I'm assuming they're very bullish on NFTs, and I'm a little contrarian in that way, at least from the art NFT side. I see them very similar as to the current meme coins phase. I think they're a lot of the time they're vehicles of speculation. I think that's why we've seen a lot of these legacy NFT die out, except for a couple big players. I think CryptoPunks is a unique case. They were the original collection. There's value in provenance and history to that. I think CryptoPunks will always have value. Something like Bored Apes, Pudgies, they're definitely, I don't think they'll ever go away, but I also don't know if we'll ever see Bored Apes at 100 ETH or 120 ETH again. I think a lot of people, especially when it's art, and there's no intrinsic value tied to it, that creates a lot of highs, but can also create a lot of lows. If these vehicles of value storage aren't able to maintain themselves, then you're going to really put a lot of pressure on the community, and they're going to have to decide, is this something I want to own and speculate on over time? Is this something I genuinely enjoy owning? And what value can I peg to that? Because even with Ethereum, there's ways to kind of understand the direct value generation that it's creating, whether that would be fees for verifying different transactions. There's ways to kind of determine an underlying value of the network. With art and with these meme coins, There's no underlying intrinsic value. So that creates a wide range of what's possible. And I think that's also why people tend to hop and hop from different ones. I think that's why we're seeing now, relating it back to the meme coin phase, we're seeing this whole new wave of meme coins with Mudang and Chill Guy and Fartcoin. And of course, there is Dogecoin and there is Shib and there will be, punks and apes, but most of them have fallen to the wayside because people are kind of just looking for that next speculative move. And I see the art side of NFTs and meme coins going in that way. I think there will be winners, but I think most of them will be losers. I think the utility side is where the value proposition is, whether that will be gaming, in our case, whether it's domains. If you own NBA.eth and the NBA wants to buy that off you. I remember beer.eth sold to Budweiser a few years ago for a couple $1,000,000. So, similar to a website, there's actually usability. If it's the only one and there's actually utility to owning a valuable brand name, there's some value there, at least not no value. It depends on the end user what that value will be. Where, another animal PFP collection, it's hard to say how that will pan out.
No, it's a great take, and I appreciate you calling out that you may have a contrarian view because that's what we're all about. We're all trying to, from an investment standpoint, we're trying to put all like minds together and kind of seeing where the market's going to shift, where we have opportunity. Kind of my personal stance is I definitely see a place in a future for NFTs. How that's going to evolve, my opinion literally changes every single day. I think one sector that you called out, I think everybody can kind of rally behind is gaming NFTs, gaming tokens to a point really just make a lot of sense to me. Especially if like you own your avatar, you get a revenue share. Parallel and what they're doing with Prime is really impressive stuff. I don't think that's going to be a flash in the pan. And then let's look at CryptoPunks is a completely different animal. There's just so
Yeah.
much legacy and money, and
Yeah.
we have to take that off the table. But let's talk a little bit about Pudgy Penguins here. They were going down. If you held Pudgy
Mm.
Penguins for a while, a lot of their collections, the little Pudgy Penguins were going down because people wanted to speculate. Meme coins were starting to boom. And I would agree, 99% of meme coins are probably going to go to zero. You can only have so many cute baby hippos or TikTok memes that catch fire and get hundreds to billions of dollars of money to keep the flow and keep people interested. Now, I don't think that's going away anytime soon, but it's very similar to kind of the NFT market in 2020, 2021, where any mint would just be an absolute cook. It would be 3 to 5x. Yeah. Didn't matter what it was. Didn't matter who the artist was. It was an absolute cook. And that's kind of what we're seeing in the meme coins. And even that's starting even to cool off a little bit. These cute meme coins like the Moon Dangs and the Chill Guys are starting to cool off. And now we have this whole AI sector that's popping up. And it feels, I've documented that I am bullish on the AI sector. I'm bullish on AI agents, but does feel like it's a game of hot potato. I don't think a lot of these AI agents are going to last. It's kind of just passing around. But there's certainly some out there that are going to develop, that are going to do some really impressive things, and I think we'll be here for years to come. But going back to kind of before I started rambling there, Pudgy Penguins was kind of not a dying collection, but it was just losing value every single day. But the speculation of a token started to get people very, very interested. All of a sudden, now we're looking at a collection that's trading over 25 ETH, close to $100,000 floor. And it's really all because of the Pengu token. People who held that NFT made 5 figures. If you held the big Pudgy, you did well. Just kind of curious, but once that kind of dies off, if Luca and team don't have a plan to utilize that token and provide even more utility to that NFT, we could see a pullback. Is that kind of how you see it as well?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I think Pudgies also are still able to maintain themselves in the spotlight now because a lot of people are speculating over Abstract, which is going to be, it's coming from Igloo Labs as well, which is Luca. So a lot of people are saying, oh, they're going to reward Penguin holders with Abstract tokens. But you can look at it similar to Yuga Labs with ApeCoin, ApeChain. We saw, and they still are maintaining value. Both of them the NFT collection of Bored Apes and all of their derivatives, as well as the ApeCoin ecosystem. It's still a multi-billion dollar ecosystem, but it's fallen 70, 80, 90% since its peaks. So again, like I think there definitely will be winners. One thing I'm thinking about now is like, I don't know how much you know about sports cards or even just any general collectible artists. There's the Michael Jordan and there's LeBron James, and there's people that are going to be willing to spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on those players at the peak of their ecosystem. But for every Michael Jordan and LeBron James, there's thousands of players that will have worthless cards. And maybe people are speculating on them in the short term. Maybe this guy's the next star, blah, blah, blah. Let's invest now. But most of those won't pan out. So I think a lot of the value accrual will go to those top collections. And I definitely think there is a space for value art is a massive industry, and there's no reason that shouldn't be digitized, especially now that we can do verifiable ownership, which is what NFTs provide. So I definitely don't want to say like I think these are all worthless. I just think there's so much speculative hype and so many people looking for the next big thing. That's why we saw all of these amazing launches in 2020, 2021. Everyone wanted to be the next Punk or the next Ape, and most of those just died by the wayside. They can say, "Oh, I'm here for the community," blah blah blah, and that's really easy when your PFP is worth 30 grand. But when your 30 grand PFP goes back to $100, we'll see how vibrant your community really is.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You nailed it there. And a great. I'm big into sports cards, so I definitely understand where you're going there. Like the Michael Jordan '86 Fleer rookie hat is the crypto punk of the NFTs. That's good trade for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But you have some other very great players out there. Their rookie cards are worth under $10, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I definitely see that. So I do believe that like NFTs, utility gaming, that whole sector, I think can take a next leg up. The right artists, the provenance of it, digitizing, everything you said there makes a ton of sense to me. But it's a different world than where we were in 21, where it was just, I'm a digital artist. I'm gonna mint. It's a worth an ETH. It was just insanity. I mean, I'll take it. I'm ready for another crazy NFT bull run. I'm not going to be upset, but that's why we always preach to our audience, anybody that's within our community, to do your own due diligence. Buy what you love, because you could be sitting on a few of those items. At least like if you buy a Squiggle NFT, you can still print it and put it on your wall and kind of enjoy it that way. Some of the meme coins out there, if they go to zero, you just have a tax write-off that you don't want to look at.
I think the meme coins are just a much more highly liquid version of the NFT bull run. It's just a lot of speculation, and it's even less than that because there's the digital flex that's possible with the NFTs, which I think is real as well. People want to have their Ferraris and their Rolexes, and this provides a digital format to do that. I'm hearing people, which I thought is really interesting, talking about watches. Apple watches may be the future, or smartwatches where you may not have the $100,000 Rolex, but you're verifying your CryptoPunk, and that's your background of your watch, and it's the same kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of similarities from the speculative gambling type of perspective. But at the end of the day, NFTs do have, or art NFTs do have, that visual appeal, that artistic appeal, that story. So I do think they have. I think the big ones will be able to maintain themselves more than like the big meme coins over time.
Kind of just wrapping up with some of the NFT questions here. And it's been a great conversation about it. I love it. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like NFTs in the future. Are they going to evolve? Are we going to have another bull run, new mints? Kind of, where are your thoughts there?
That's a good question. It's hard to say. I think gaming is where there's a lot of potential. We've seen games like Shrapnel kind of become the first to market to really penetrate into a mainstream audience. They're available on PS5 and Xbox. Art NFTs, there will definitely be collections that launch that are new collections that gain value over time. But I don't know if we'll see another bull run like we saw in 2021 or 2020, 2021, because we also don't have the novelty anymore. If you're just creating another PFP collection, there's tens of thousands of those that have been created over time. So you really need to do something new or something interesting or novel in some way to generate interest. And maybe, it's hard to say how that will evolve. it's easy when you're looking back to say, like, this is obvious or this is how things were going to move forward. But sitting here now, it's hard to say how these art NFTs will change over time. But I think, uniquely verifiable digital assets will definitely play a role in the future in a lot of different applications. Whether it's NFTs or soulbound tokens, which kind of are tied directly to an address and can't be transferred. Um, you know, non fungible tokens, unique tokens are definitely going to have their role in different applications.
Yeah, yeah, I think you nailed it there, and you're right. Again, I'm gonna say it again. I think gaming NFTs definitely have a space, and that's gonna get some traction in the world here. Even recently, the very prominent figure on Twitter, Beanie, is endorsing or partner. I'm not exactly sure his exact capacity of a Solana NFT project where he was like an ETH maxi years ago called Critter Quest, and this minted for like one Solana, a couple $100, and it's ran to well over 10, 12 Solana right now, still less than one ETH. It's kind of funny when you look back and you look back at the NFT market in 2021, like one ETH seemed free. But back to this Critter Quest, this is ran a 10x, but they're throwing tons of utility behind it. Other opportunities for mints, for other NFTs, that it all connects to a game at the end of the day. So it's really like an NFT based utility gaming NFT, and it's catching some steam. I agree. I'm not sure if we're going to see another just like pure 10,000 PFP, well done collection that's, hey, this is for the people, this is for the community, that's going to run. I'm not sure if I could see Bored Apes going to another 100 ETH or whatever it was, unless something crazy, unless they launched like a game that's super successful and or people are getting rev share. There's definitely a path there, but it seems like that's an uphill battle to climb.
I mean, let's say Bored Apes creates, the next Star Wars movie or something. Like they really need to create something that will capture attention and capture hearts over time. It can't just be like pure speculation, because if it's pure speculation, once the number starts going down, people start leaving. And that's kind of where the utility side comes in. I mean, I was a big RuneScape guy playing growing up. I think of Fortnite. I think of, if Fortnite, original Fortnite, was released all of their guns as NFTs. If you're able to carry that with you over decades and you're able to sell that and show your history and your provenance, and there's still that demand of millions of users, or CSGO, for example, which does offer this kind of without NFTs, there's value to that. But there needs to be actual interest in the ecosystem outside of pure speculation. If it's pure speculation, I think eventually the well dries up.
Yeah, and meme coins have taken some of that speculation, right? I mean, if people want to
Definitely.
speculate, we go over to the meme coin sector, which could be a ton of fun. And there's
Yeah.
some utility behind some of these meme coins. There's communities behind it. There's a lot of things that are just more than a meme. But at the end of the day, a lot of people are speculating, and there's tons of liquidity over on the
Yeah.
meme side of the world. That's why I do think like, and it's good. I like that the NFT sector was kind of flushed out. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it wasn't sustainable in 2021, but it was tough to get away because it was just
Yeah.
you mint and print. But it flushed
Yeah.
out, and now the cream can rise to the top. We can build some cool projects, some cool games. Harrison, I absolutely love talking to you on this interview. I could go for another 30 minutes, realizing that we're a little bit over time. I want to give it an opportunity for you to give everyone a call out for Space ID, how they can find you, how they can find the community, and really just make it a lot easier for their own digital identity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a really fun conversation. Appreciate you bringing me on. Check us out at space.id. We support about 20 different domain name services, millions of users across a variety of different chains. So any flavor you want, Ethereum, Binance, Solana, we support it all. And you can register whatever you want. I go publicly by harrison.bnb. You can use a pseudonym, your real name, your Twitter handle, whatever you want. And it just makes that on-chain transaction, that on-chain journey a little bit easier. And like you said, for that next class of users, I think it's going to be a very big role, kind of just abstracting away some of these technical complexities. So space.id is our website. Check us out on Twitter at Space ID Protocol. We're always available on Discord, on Telegram, and always happy to discuss.
And no BS, I haven't done it yet. I have not officially, I guess you said on chain mapping. I haven't done it with my name. right when we get off this podcast, I'm making that happen to make my life easier. So I appreciate you
Awesome.
giving me a call out there.
Yeah, for sure. That's the goal. Just trying to make it a little bit easier for people to interact on chain.
Thanks again, Harrison. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks a lot, Brian.